Hello all. Akriti Educations brings you the detailed analysis and solution of 2021 IIT JEE Advanced Paper 1. In this lecture, we will discuss all the questions in detail. So section 1, question 1. Question says, consider the triangle delta whose two sides lie on the x-axis and the line x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. If the orthocenter of delta is 1, 1, then we need to find the equation of the circle passing through the vertices of the triangle. We will solve this question by two methods. In method 1, it is given that two sides are lying on the x-axis and x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0 respectively. It means one of the vertices of the triangle will lie on the intersection of x-axis and x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. Similarly, the other vertex will be on the side x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0 and the third vertex will be on somewhere x-axis. And it is given that orthocenter is at 1, 1. So the one vertex will be at intersection and the intersection point is when y is equal to 0. So the coordinate of the vertex will be minus 1, 0. Now, if we draw any line perpendicular to the side x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0 because it will represent the one of the sides of the triangle. So that perpendicular line will pass through the orthocenter h 1, 1. And to find its equation, we know that the slope of x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0 is minus 1. So the slope of its perpendicular line will be 1 and it will be passing through 1, 1. So its equation will be nothing but y is equal to x. And we also know that all the altitudes should pass through the vertex only. It means the point which will lie on the line y is equal to x and will be on the x-axis, it will be none other than 0, 0. So the second vertex of this triangle will be at 0, 0. Now we have found the one vertex at minus 1, 0. The second vertex is at 0, 0. Now to find the third vertex, we know that we have the one side as x-axis. So the line perpendicular to the x-axis will be nothing but of the form x is equal to k and it is passing through the orthocenter 1, 1. So it will lie on x is equal to 1 and it will intersect the line x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. So if we substitute x is equal to 1, then it will give y is equal to minus 2 and hence the coordinate of the third vertex of the triangle will be 1, minus 2. Hence we have found all the three vertices of the triangle as minus 1, 0, 0, 0 and 1, minus 2. Now we have to find the equation of the circle which is passing through all these three vertices. As we know that the general equation of circle is x square plus y square plus 2gx plus 2fy plus c is equal to 0. Since it is passing through the vertex 0, 0, so it will give c is equal to 0. Also it is passing through the coordinate minus 1, 0. So it will give g is equal to half. And it is also passing through the vertex 1, minus 2. So after solving, it will give f is equal to 3 by 2. So the equation of the circle will be x square plus y square plus x plus 3y is equal to 0. Thus option 2 is correct. Now we will solve it by another method. This method relies on the fact that reflection of orthocenter about the sides of the triangle are concyclic and they lie on the circumcircle of the triangle. So we are given the two sides of the triangle as x-axis and x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. So we will take the reflection of the orthocenter which is given as 1, 1 about these sides. So we know that the reflection of x1 comma y1 about any line ax plus by plus c is equal to 0 is given by x minus x1 divided by a is equal to y minus y1 divided by b is equal to minus 2 times ax1 plus by1 plus c divided by a square plus b square. So we will use this concept here to find the reflection point of 1 comma 1 about the line x-axis whose equation is written as y is equal to 0 and another line x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0. So the reflection point will come out as 1 comma minus 1 and minus 2 comma minus 2 respectively. Also, we know that one of the vertex of this triangle will be the intersection of the x-axis and the x plus y plus 1 is equal to 0, which is nothing but minus 1 comma 0. So it means we have to find the equation of the circle which passes through the two reflection points 1 comma minus 1 and 2 comma minus 2 and the one of the vertex of the triangle as minus 1 comma 0. So after solving, we will get the equation of circle as x square plus y square plus x plus 3y is equal to 0. Thus, option 2 is correct. Question 2. We need to find the area of the region given as set of all the ordered pairs x, y such that x lies between close 0 to close 9 by 4, y lies between close 0 to close 1, x is greater than or equal to 3y and x plus y is greater than or equal to 2. So if we draw the diagram, we will come up with the shaded region. And it is nothing but the combination of the two triangles, and we know that the area of triangle with given vertices x1 comma y1 x2 comma y2 and x3 comma y3 is given as half times determinant of x1 y11 x2 y21 x3 y31, and by applying the formula we will get area as 11 by 32. Thus, option 1 is correct. Question 3. Consider three sets E1 is equal to 1, 2, 3, F1 is equal to 1, 3, 4 and G1 is equal to 2, 3, 4, 5. Two elements are chosen at random without replacement from the set E1 and let S1 denote the set of these chosen elements. Let E2 is equal to E1 minus S1 and F2 is equal to F1 union S1. Now, two elements are chosen at random without replacement from the set F2 and let S2 denote the set of these chosen elements. Let G2 is equal to G1 union S2. Finally, two elements are chosen at random without replacement from the set G2 and let S3 denote the set of these chosen elements. Let E3 is equal to E2 union S3. Given that E1 is equal to E3, let P be the conditional probability of the event S1 is equal to 1, 2. Then we need to find the value of P. So there are the lot of informations and lot of sets are given in this question. So first we will analyze what we have to do. If we read the question again, then we will find that we have to find exactly the probability P, which is nothing but probability of S1 is equal to 1, 2 conditioned E1 is equal to E3. And using the Bayes theorem, it can be written as probability of E1 is equal to E3 conditioned S1 is equal to set of 1, 2 times probability of S1 is equal to 1, 2 divided by probability of E1 is equal to E3 conditioned S1 is equal to 1, 2 times probability of S1 is equal to 1, 2 plus probability of E1 is equal to E3 conditioned S1 is not equal to 1, 2 times probability of S1 is not equal to 1, 2. As it is given that S1 is the set of chosen element from E1 and it has two elements. So it means S1 has three type of possibilities. S1 can be either 1 comma 2, it can be either 1 comma 3, or it can be either 2 comma 3. So correspondingly P can be written as the given formula. Now we will solve for each case one by one. So case 1, when S1 is equals to 1 comma 2, case 2 is when S1 is equals to 1 comma 3, and case 3 is when S1 is equal to 2 comma 3. The probability of getting each set will be 1 by 3 only, and E2 is given as E1 minus S1, so we can find E2 in all these three cases. And similarly, F2 is given as F1 union S1, so we can calculate F2. Now it is given that E3 is equals to E2 union S3, and it is also given that E2 is equals to E1 minus S1. So for E1 to be equal to E3, S3 should be equal to S1. So in all these three cases, we have obtained S3, which is nothing but equal to the set S1. We have also given the information that S3 is the subset of set G2, and G2 is equal to the set G1 union set S2. Now in all these three cases, we will analyze the set S2 separately. Now in first case, set S3 has element 1 and 2, and S3 is coming from G2, which is nothing but union of G1 and S2. So S2 must have one element as 1, because if S2 will not have 1, then S3 cannot have 1, because G1 has elements 2, 3, 4 and 5. It doesn't have 1. So S2 should have 1. So it means one element of S2 will be 1. And that the similar concept will apply for the case 2. In case 3, the set S3 has elements 2 and 3. So there is no requirement to get the element 1, and it means the set S2 can have any elements which are coming from set F2. Now in case 1, F2 has elements 1, 2, 3 and 4, and S2 is coming from set F2. So one element of set S2 should be equal to 1, and for other element of S2 there are the three possibilities. It can be either 2, it can be either 3, or it can be either 4. So it means probability of that 1 belongs to set S2 will be equal to 3 by 4. Similarly in case 2, probability of 1 belongs to set S2 will be equal to 2 by 3, because in that case F2 has elements 1, 3 and 4, and other than 1, S2 can have only two possibilities, either 3 or either 4. And in case 3, S2 can be anything, so that probability will be equal to 1. So in case 1, we will obtain G2 as 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Similarly in case 2, but in case 3, G2 will have only 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now we need to find that probability of E1 is equals to E3 conditioned S1 is equals to 1, 2, and that will be exactly equal to probability of S3 is equals to 1, 2. And it can be obtained only when 1 will belongs to S2 and 1, 2 is the subset of set G2. It means S3 is the subset of G2. Now in first case, that probability will come out as 3 by 40. In second case, that probability will come out as 2 by 30, and in third case that probability will come out as 1 by 6. So the probability P will come out as 1 by 2 using this formula. Hence option 3 is correct. Question 4. Question says, let theta 1, theta 2 up to theta 10 be positive valued angles in radian such that sum of all these theta 1 to theta 10 is equal to 2 pi. Define the complex numbers. Z1 is equal to e raised to the power iota theta 1. Zk is equal to zk minus 1 e raised to the power iota theta k. For k is equal to 2, 3 up to 10, where iota is square root of minus 1. Consider the statements given below. P is the statement such that modulus of Z2 minus Z1 plus modulus of Z3 minus Z2 up to so on modulus of Z10 minus Z9 plus modulus of Z1 minus Z10 is less than or equal to 2 pi. Similarly, the statement Q is modulus of Z2 square minus Z1 square plus modulus of Z3 square minus Z2 square up to so on modulus of Z10 square minus Z9 square plus modulus of Z1 square minus Z10 square is less than or equal to 4 pi. Then we have to determine that which of the statements are true. Now, if we look at this question carefully, then we are given the 10 complex numbers Z1 to Z10 and the relation is given as Zk is equals to Zk minus 1 e raised to the power iota theta k, with Z1 is defined as e raised to the power iota theta 1. Since modulus of Z1 is nothing but 1, so all these complex numbers can be defined as the points on the circle of the unit radius, such that the angle between Z10 and Z1 is theta 1, angle between Z1 and Z2 is theta 2, and so on. And thus, modulus of Z2 minus Z1 will represent side of the polygon framed on this circle, and it will be a 10-sided polygon, and whose sides will be represented by modulus of Z2 minus Z1, modulus of Z3 minus Z2, modulus of Z4 minus Z3, and so on, modulus of Z1 minus Z10. So, the statement P is nothing but the perimeter of this polygon. Now, we can see that this polygon is totally inscribed in the unit radius circle. So, the perimeter of this polygon will always be less than the perimeter of the circle. The perimeter of this circle with unit radius is nothing but 2 pi, and hence the modulus of Z2 minus Z1 plus modulus of Z3 minus Z2 up to so on modulus of Z1 minus Z10 will always be less than or equal to 2 pi. It means statement P is true. Now we have to determine about the statement Q. So statement Q is given as modulus of Z2 square minus Z1 square plus modulus of Z3 square minus Z2 square up to so on modulus of Z1 square minus Z10 square. And it can be simplified as modulus of Z2 minus Z1 times modulus of Z2 plus Z1. And similarly, the last term will be modulus of Z1 minus Z10 times modulus of Z1 plus Z10. It means we have splitted each term of the statement Q using the property that modulus of two complex numbers W1 times W2 will be nothing but modulus of W1 times modulus of W2. We also know from the triangle inequality that modulus of Z1 plus Z2 is always less than or equal to modulus of Z1 plus modulus of Z2. It means sum of two sides is always greater than or equal to the third side. And since the modulus of each complex number Z1, Z2 up to Z10 is 1, so modulus of Z1 plus Z2 will always be less than or equal to 2. And it means the statement Q will always be less than or equal to 2 times modulus of Z2 minus Z1 plus 2 times modulus of Z3 minus Z2 up to so on 2 times modulus of Z1 minus Z10. If we take 2 as common, then it is nothing but 2 times of P. And we have already proved that statement P is less than or equal to 2 pi, so Q will be less than or equal to 4 pi. And hence we will get statement Q as modulus of z2 square minus z1 square up to so on modulus of z1 square minus z10 square will be less than or equal to 4 pi. So statement Q will also be true, and hence both P and Q are true. So option 3 is correct. Section 2, question 5 and 6. The question stem is given as 3 numbers are chosen random, one after another with replacement from the set S is equal to the set of natural numbers from 1 to 100. Let P1 be the probability that maximum of chosen numbers is at least 81, and P2 be the probability that minimum of the chosen number is at most 40. Then question 5 is about to find the value of 625 by 4 times P1, and question 6 is about to find the value of 125 by 4 times P2. Now first we will solve that how many possible numbers can be chosen from a set S randomly. Since we have to choose 3 numbers and there are the total 100 numbers with replacement we have to choose. So the total number of possible cases will be 100 times 100 times 100. It means 100Q. Now we will solve first for the probability P1. Since the condition is given that the maximum of chosen number is at least 81, such that set A contains the natural numbers from 1 to 80 and set B contains the natural number from 81 to 100. Now, to pick the number such that the maximum of chosen number is at least 81, so there may be 3 possible cases. Case 1, that all the 3 numbers are from set B. Second case is that 2 numbers are from set B and 1 number is from set A. And case 3 is 1 number from set B and 2 numbers from set A. So if we find the probability that 3 numbers from the set B and we have to find it with replacement, so its probability will be 20 by 100 times 20 by 100 times 20 by 100. Now in the second case we have to pick 2 numbers from set B and 1 number from set A. Can be arranged in 3C2 ways, and the probability to pick 2 numbers from set B will be 20 by 100 times 20 by 100, and probability to pick 1 number from set A will be 80 by 100. And similarly in the case 3, 1 number should be from set B and 2 numbers from set A. There may be 3C1 possibilities to arrange all these 3 numbers, 1 from set A and 2 from set B, and their corresponding probability will be 20 by 100 times 80 by 100 times 80 by 100. So P1 will be the sum of all these 3 probabilities in the case 1, 2 and 3, and further computation will lead to P1 is equal to 488 divided by 1000. Now we need to find the value of 625 by 4 times P1, and it will come out as 305 divided by 4, and in decimal it will be 76.25. Now we will calculate for the probability P2. We have given the condition that the minimum of chosen number should be at most 40. So it means we will again divide the set S into 2 sets C and D, such that C will contain the natural numbers from 1 to 40 and D will contain the natural numbers from 41 to 100. Again, to satisfy the required criteria that the minimum of chosen number should be at most 40, there will be 3 possible cases. Case 1, all 3 numbers should be from C. Case 2, 2 numbers from set C and 1 number from set D. And case 3, 1 number from set C and 2 numbers from set D. Now the probability in case 1 will be 40 by 100 times 40 by 100 times 40 by 100. Probability in case 2 will be 3C2 times 40 by 100 times 40 by 100 times 60 by 100. Because these two numbers from set C and one number from set D can be arranged in 3C2 ways. And similarly in case 3, where we have to pick one number from set C and two numbers from set D, so the possible arrangement will be 3C1 and corresponding probability of these numbers to pick from corresponding sets will be 40 by 100 times 60 by 100 times 60 by 100. So P2 will be the summation of these three quantities. It will come out as 784 divided by 1000. And we have to find the value of 125 by 4 times P2. And it will come out as 98 by 4. And in decimal it can be written as 24.50. Question 7 and 8. The question stem is given as: let alpha, beta and gamma be real numbers such that the system of linear equations x plus 2y plus 3z is equal to alpha, 4x plus 5y plus 6z is equal to beta, 7x plus 8y plus 9z is equal to gamma minus 1 is consistent. Let determinant of M represent the determinant of matrix M given as alpha 2 gamma beta 1 0 minus 1 0 1. Let P be the plane containing all those triplet alpha comma beta comma gamma for which the above system of linear equations is consistent, and D be the square of the distance of the point 0 comma 1 comma 0 from the plane P. Then we need to find the value of determinant of M and the value of D. Now first we will understand the theory of the system of linear equations. If we are given the three linear equations as written below, which can be written in terms of matrix as Ax is equal to B, where delta as determinant of A, delta x, delta y and delta z are the determinant of the matrices obtained from matrix A after replacing first, second and third column by the vector B respectively. So this system will have unique solution if the determinant will be not equal to 0. Similarly, it will have no solution when determinant is equal to 0, but at least one of the delta x, delta y or delta z is not equal to 0, and it has infinite many solutions if all the determinants delta, delta x, delta y and delta z are 0. A system is called as consistent if it has at least one solution. It means it can have either unique solution or it can have either infinite solution. Now we will impose this theory to the given system of linear equations. So the system matrix will be having entries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and its determinant will come out as 0. So it means it cannot have unique solution. It will have either no solution or will have infinite many solutions. So for system to be consistent, it should have infinite many solutions, and for infinite many solutions, all the determinants Ax, Ay and Az should be equal to 0, which will be formed by replacing first, second and third column by the right hand side vector alpha, beta, gamma minus 1 respectively. And since all these three determinants can be transformed into one another by elementary transformation, so the determinant will lead to a single equation and it will come out as alpha minus 2 beta plus gamma is equal to 1. So it means if we collect all these triplet alpha, beta and gamma, it will represent the equation of plane, and whose equation will be written as alpha minus 2 beta plus gamma is equal to 1. Now first we will find the determinant of M. The determinant of M having the given entries, and after solving it will come out as alpha minus 2 beta plus gamma, and it is equals to 1, so determinant of m will be equal to 1. Now to solve for the d, first we will understand that the distance of any point A x1, y1, z1 from any given plane ax plus by plus cz equals to d is given as ax1 plus by1 plus cz1 minus d divided by square root of a square plus b square plus c square. So using this theory, we will find the distance of point 0, 1, 0 from the equation of plane as x minus 2y plus z is equal to 1. And its distance will come out as 3 divided by root 6. And capital D is the square of the distance. So capital D will come out as 1.5. Question 9 and 10. The question stem is given as: consider the lines L1 and L2 defined by L1 as x root 2 plus y minus 1 is equal to 0 and L2 as x root 2 minus 1 plus 1 is equal to 0 for a fixed constant lambda. Let C be the locus of the point P such that the product of the distance of P from L1 and from L2 is lambda square. The line y is equal to 2x plus 1 meets C at 2 points R and S, where the distance between R and S is root 270. Let the perpendicular bisector of RS meet C at two distinct points R dash and S dash. Let D be the square of the distance between R dash and S dash. Then we need to find the value of lambda square and D. Now to find the locus of the point, let us assume that P is h, k, and we know that distance of any point A x1, y1 from line L ax plus by is equal to C is given as modulus of ax1 plus by1 minus C divided by square root of a square plus b square. And we are given that the product of distance of P from L1 and from L2 is lambda square. So the distance of P from line L1 will be h root 2 plus k minus 1 divided by root 3 and its modulus, and distance of P from line L2 will be modulus of h root 2 minus k plus 1 divided by square root of 3, and its product is nothing but equal to lambda square. And by simplifying, we will get modulus of 2h square minus k minus 1 whole square divided by 3 is equal to lambda square. Thus, we have found the locus C as modulus of 2x square minus y minus 1 whole square is equal to 3 lambda square. Now, to find the intersection of the curve C with the line y is equal to 2x plus 1, we will replace y is equal to 2x plus 1 in the equation of curve C, and after replacing we will get x is equal to plus minus lambda times square root of 3 by 2 and y as 1 plus minus lambda times square root of 6. Thus the coordinate of the point R will be lambda times square root of 3 by 2, 1 plus lambda times square root of 6. And coordinate of S will be minus lambda times square root of 3 by 2, 1 minus lambda times square root of 6. We are given that the distance between point R and S is root 270. So after solving, we will get lambda is equal to either plus 3 or lambda is equal to either minus 3. Now we have come with the locus C as modulus of 2x square minus y minus 1 square is equal to 3 lambda square, and we have also obtained the fixed constant lambda as plus minus 3. Now we need to find the perpendicular bisector of the RS. So the midpoint of R and S will be 0, 1. The slope of RS will be found out as 2. So the slope of r dash s dash will be minus 1 by 2 because it is perpendicular. And hence the equation of perpendicular bisector can be written as x plus 2y is equal to 2. And after solving it with the c, we will get the coordinate r dash s 6 times square root of 3 by 7, comma 1 minus 3 times square root of 3 by 7, and s dash s minus 6 times square root of 3 by 7, comma 1 plus 3 times square root of 3 by 7. Now the distance between r dash and s dash will come out as 6 times square root of 15 by 7, and its square will come out as 540 by 7, and in decimal it can be represented as 77.14. Question 11. Question says, for any 3 by 3 matrix M, let determinant of M denotes the determinant of M. Let matrix E is a 3 by 3 matrix as given here. P be a 3 by 3 matrix which came from the transformation in the identity matrix, and similarly F is a 3 by 3 matrix as written down here. If Q is a non-singular matrix of order 3 by 3, then we need to determine that which of the following statement is or are true. Now, if you observe carefully the matrices E and F, then you will get that matrix F is obtained after interchanging column 2 with column 3 and then row 2 with row 3. Here, the matrix P can also be found from the identity matrix if we either interchange column 2 with column 3 or we interchange row 2 with row 3. So here is the important concept with the pre-multiplication or the post-multiplication of the matrix. If we post-multiply the matrix E with matrix P, it means we are finding the column transformation. Or if we pre-multiply the matrix E with matrix P, then we are determining the row transformation. So if we find P times E times P, so it will come up with the F, because it will both interchange column 2 with column 3 because of the post multiplication, and it will also interchange row 2 with row 3 after column transformation because of the pre-multiplication. So it means F is equal to P times E times P. And we can also determine that P square is equal to nothing but identity matrix. Since P square is an identity matrix, so P will be equal to P inverse, and we can also determine that determinant of P will be equal to minus 1. Now we will check with the option number 2. So we can determine that determinant of E is equal to 0, and since F is obtained from matrix E with row transformations or column transformations only, so the determinant of F will also be equal to 0. Now, determinant of EQ plus PFQ inverse will be nothing but determinant of PFPQ plus PFQ inverse. Here we have written E is equal to PFP. Since in both the matrices under the determinant sign, PF is pre-multiplied, so we can take out, and it can be written as determinant of P times determinant of F times determinant of PQ plus Q inverse. Here we have used the property that determinant of AB is equals to determinant of A times determinant of B. Now since determinant of F is equal to 0, so determinant of EQ plus PFQ inverse will be equal to 0. Now we will check determinant of EQ plus determinant of PFQ inverse. Again we will use the property that determinant of AB is equals to determinant of A times determinant of B. So determinant of EQ will be determinant of E times determinant of Q, and determinant of PFQ inverse will be equal to determinant of P times determinant of F times determinant of Q inverse. Since determinant of E and determinant of F is equal to 0, so this quantity will solve out at 0. And hence both the terms are equal. So determinant of EQ plus PFQ inverse is equal to determinant of EQ plus determinant of PFQ inverse. But here we have to note that in general determinant of A plus B is not equal to determinant of A plus determinant of B. Unlike determinant of AB is equals to determinant of A times determinant of B. Now we will check with the option number 3. So EF can be written as E times PEP because F is equal to PEP, and it is written as EP whole square. So determinant of EF whole cube will be equal to determinant of EF cube, and that will be equal to determinant EP whole raised to the power 6, and that will be equal to determinant of E raised to the power 6 times determinant of P raised to the power 6, which will come out as 0 because determinant of E is equal to 0. And similarly, determinant of EF square will be equal to 0. Since 0 is not greater than 0, so option 3 will not be correct. Now we will check for the option number 4. So let us assume set A is equals to P inverse EP plus F, and it can be simplified into PEP plus F because P inverse is equal to P, and since PEP is equals to F, so matrix A is equals to 2 times F. And similarly, let matrix B is equals to E plus P inverse FP, and it will come out as 2 times of E. Now the trace of matrix E is 1 plus 3 plus 18, which is equals to 22, and that is also equals to the trace of matrix F. So trace of matrix A will be 2 times 22, and similarly that of matrix B. So trace of both the matrices, it means sum of the diagonal entries of the matrices P inverse EP plus F is equals to that of E plus P inverse FP. So option 1, 2 and 4 are correct. Question 12. Let F maps from R to R be defined by f of x is equal to x square minus 3x minus 6 divided by x square plus 2x plus 4. Then we need to determine which of the following statements are true. Now we will first simplify the given function f of x, and that can be represented as 1 minus 5 times x plus 2 divided by x square plus 2x plus 4. So let us call g of x is equals to x plus 2 divided by x square plus 2x plus 4. So f of x can be written as 1 minus 5 times of g of x. So if g of x will be increasing, then f of x will be decreasing because of that minus sign, and vice versa. Now we will first determine the nature of function g of x. So to determine the nature of increasing or decreasing nature of g of x, we will have to determine g prime of x, and g prime of x come out as minus times of x times x plus 4 divided by x square plus 2x plus 4 whole square, and that can also be simplified as minus times of x plus 2 whole square minus 4 whole divided by x square plus 2x plus 4 whole square. So when x belongs to minus 2 to minus 1, x plus 2 will belongs to 0 to 1, and thus x plus 2 whole square minus 4 will belong to open minus 4 to open minus 3. Since x square plus 2x plus 4 whole square is always greater than 0 for all x belongs to R, so g prime of x will be greater than 0 when x belongs to open minus 2 to open minus 1. And hence g of x will be increasing, and thus f of x will be decreasing when x belongs to open minus 2 to open minus 1. Now we will check in the interval x belongs to open 1 to open 2. So when x belongs to 1 to 2, x plus 2 will belongs to 3 to 4 and x plus 2 whole square minus 4 will belongs to 5 to 12. Since x square plus 2x plus 4 whole square is always greater than 0, so g prime of x will be less than 0. It means g of x will be decreasing and hence f of x will be increasing in nature. Now we have to find the range of the function f of x. So first we will find the range of the function g of x. So let us call y is equals to x plus 2 divided by x square plus 2x plus 4. And since x square plus 2x plus 4 cannot be equal to 0 because its discriminant is less than 0, so we can cross multiply to obtain a quadratic equation as y x square plus x times 2y minus 1 plus 4y minus 2 is equal to 0. It is given that the domain of function f of x is R, so this quadratic equation will have real roots. And the condition for the roots to be real is discriminant should be greater than or equal to 0. And if we apply the same, then we will get y belongs to close minus 1 by 6 to close 1 by 2. And hence f of x will belongs to minus 3 by 2 to 11 by 6. Since the codomain is given as all the real numbers and codomain and range is not equal, so f of x is not onto function, it is an into function. So option 1 and 2 are correct. Question 13. Question says, let E, F and G be three events having probabilities. Probability of E is equal to 1 by 8, probability of F is equal to 1 by 6 and probability of G is equal to 1 by 4. And let probability of E intersection F intersection Z is equals to 1 by 10. For any event H, let H complement denotes its complement. Then we need to determine which of the following statements are true. Now, first we determine that probability of E intersection F intersection G complement is nothing but probability of E intersection F minus probability of E intersection F intersection G. Here we are given the probability of E intersection F intersection G, but we are not given the probability of E intersection F. So, to determine the range of the probability of E intersection F, first we have to know that for any two events A and B, probability of A intersection B will always be less than or equal to minimum of probability of A and probability of B. So using the same criteria, we will get probability of E intersection F will be less than or equals to minimum of 1 by 8 and 1 by 6, and it will come out as 1 by 8. So probability of E intersection F intersection Z complement will be less than or equal to 1 by 8 minus 1 by 10. And after solving, we will get 1 by 40. In similar fashion, probability of E complement intersection F intersection G will be equal to probability of F intersection G minus probability of E intersection F intersection G. Similarly, probability of F intersection G will be less than or equal to minimum of 1 by 6 and 1 by 4, and it will come out as 1 by 6. So probability of E complement intersection F intersection G will be less than or equal to 1 by 15. Now, we also know that for any two events A and B, probability of A union B will always be greater than or equal to maximum of probability of A and probability of B, and it will always be less than or equal to probability of A plus probability of B. So we will use the same concept here to solve for the probability of E union F union G. and it will be less than or equal to probability of E plus probability of F plus probability of G, and its value come out as 13 by 24. And probability of E complement intersection F complement intersection G complement is nothing but 1 minus probability of E union F union G using the De Morvis theorem. Since probability of E union F union G lies between 1 by 4 and 13 by 24, so probability of E complement intersection F complement intersection G complement will lie between 11 by 24 and 3 by 4. But in option 4, it is given that probability of E complement intersection F complement intersection G complement is less than or equals to 5 by 12, and that 5 by 12 is same as 10 by 24, which is even less than 11 by 24. So option 4 will be incorrect, and hence option 1, 2 and 3 will be correct. Question 14. Question says, for any 3 by 3 matrix M, let determinant of M denote the determinant of M. Let I be the 3 by 3 identity matrix, and let E and F be two 3 by 3 matrices such that I minus EF is invertible. If G is equals to I minus EF inverse, then we need to determine which of the following statement is or are true. Since it is given that I minus Fe and G are inverse of each other, so G times I minus EF will be identity matrix, and after simplifying we will get G minus GEF is equals to identity matrix. Similarly, I minus EF times G will be equal to identity matrix, and it will give G minus EFG will be equal to identity matrix. So, from both the equations, G minus I will be equal to GEF, and that is equal to EFG. So, GEF will be equal to EFG. Here we have used the condition that A times A inverse is equals to identity matrix, and A inverse times A is equals to identity matrix for any square matrix A. Now, I minus Fe times I plus Fge will be equal to I plus Fge minus Fe minus Fge. And from second and third matrix, we can write as I plus F times G minus I times E minus that EFG is equals to G minus I, so it can be written as F times G minus I times E. So it will come out as identity matrix. And we can also verify that I minus Fe times I minus Fge will not be equal to identity matrix. Now for the option 1, we will check I minus Fe times Fge, and that will be simplified as Fge minus Fefge, and it can be written as Fge minus F times G minus identity matrix times E, and that will be simplified into Fe. So if we take the determinant both the sides, so determinant of I minus Fe times Fge will be equals to determinant of Fe, and using the property that determinant of AB is equals to determinant of A times determinant of B, so determinant of Fe will be equal to determinant of I minus Fe times determinant of Fge. So option 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Question 15. Question says, for any positive integer n, let Sn maps from 0 to infinity to R be defined by Sn of x is equals to sum of cot inverse 1 plus k times k plus 1 times x square divided by x, sum from k is equal to 1 to n, where for any x belongs to R, cot inverse of x belongs to open 0 to open infinity, and tan inverse of x belongs to open minus pi by 2 to pi by 2. Then we need to determine which of the following statements is or are true. Now first we simplify the given mapping, and Sn of x can be written as summation of cot inverse 1 plus k times k plus 1 x square divided by x, and it can be transformed into tan inverse as tan inverse of x divided by 1 plus k times k plus 1 x square, and in the numerator x can be written as k plus 1 times x minus kx. So using the formula of the tan inverse, it can be splitted into tan inverse of k plus 1x minus tan inverse of kx. And if we sum it from k is equals to n, then it will come out as tan inverse of n plus 1x minus tan inverse of x. And further simplification, it will lead to tan inverse of nx divided by 1 plus n plus 1 times x square. So now we have obtained the mapping Sn of x in terms of tan inverse. So first we will check S tan of x. S tan of x will be obtained by substituting n is equals to 10, and it will come out as tan inverse of tan x divided by 1 plus 11x square. And it can be transformed into cot inverse using the identity that tan inverse of x is equals to cot inverse of 1 by x for all x greater than 0. And we also know that tan inverse of x plus cot inverse of x is equal to pi by 2 for all x greater than 0. So S tan of x can be simplified as pi by 2 minus tan inverse of 1 plus 11x square divided by tan x. So option 1 is correct. Now we will check for the option 2, as limit n goes to infinity cot of Sn of x, and it can be written as limit n goes to infinity cot of tan inverse of nx divided by 1 plus n plus 1 x square, and after simplifying it will come out as limit n goes to infinity 1 plus n plus 1 x square divided by nx. Since x is greater than 0 and n is approaching towards infinity, so the limit will come to the x. So the limit value is x when x is greater than 0. So option 2 is also correct. Now we will check for the option 3. So we need to find the number of solution for S3 of x is equals to pi by 4. And S3 of x can be written as tan inverse of 3x divided by 1 plus 4x square, and we have to equate it to the pi by 4, and the equation will come out as 4x square minus 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. Since its discriminant is negative, so it will have no real solution. So option 3 is incorrect. Now to check for the option 4, we will first find tan of Sn of x, and that will come out as nx divided by 1 plus n plus 1 times x square for all x greater than 0. As we have already proved that limit n goes to infinity cot of Sn of x is equals to x for x greater than 0. So if we take the reciprocal, limit n goes to infinity tan of Sn of x will be equal to 1 by x. And if we take any quantity when x belongs to open 0 to open 2, that 1 by x will be greater than 1 by 2. And it means tan of Sn of x is less than or equals to 1 by 2 for all x greater than 0 is incorrect. And hence option 4 is incorrect. Thus option 1 and 2 are correct. Question 16. Question says, for any complex number w is equal to c plus iota d, the argument of w belongs to open minus pi to close pi, where iota is square root of minus 1. Let alpha and beta be real numbers such that for all complex number z is equal to x plus iota y, satisfying argument of z plus alpha divided by z plus beta is equal to pi by 4. The ordered pair x comma y lies on the circle x square plus y square plus 5x minus 3y plus 4 is equal to 0. Then we need to determine which of the following statements is or are true. Now, first we understand the theory behind this question. As we know that argument of z minus z1 divided by z minus z2 is equal to theta represents the three concyclic points z, z1 and z2 when theta belongs to open 0 to open pi. So according to the given equation, argument of z plus alpha divided by z plus beta is equal to pi by 4 will represent the three concyclic points as z, minus alpha and minus beta. And these three concyclic points will lie on the circle and its equation is given as x square plus y square plus 5x minus 3y plus 4 is equal to 0. Now it is also given that alpha and beta are the real numbers, and in the Argand plane the real numbers will lie on the real axis. So the imaginary axis will be equal to 0. It means y will be equal to 0, and to find the value of alpha, if we substitute y is equals to 0, then we will get the quadratic equation as x square plus 5x plus 4 is equal to 0. And its roots will be minus alpha and minus beta. So by comparing, we will get roots as minus 4 and minus 1. So alpha and beta can be either 1 or 4. So according to the options, alpha and beta can be equal to 4 and beta is equal to 4. Hence option 2 and 4 are correct. Question 17. Question says, for x belongs to real numbers, the number of real roots of the equation 3x square minus 4 times modulus of x square minus 1 plus x minus 1 is equal to 0. So to solve this kind of equation, first we have to identify the critical points of the modulus function. Its critical point will be x is equal to plus minus 1. So we have to break the modulus function of x square minus 1 at point x is equals to minus 1 and at x is equals to plus 1. So correspondingly there will be two cases. Case 1, when x belongs to close minus 1 to close 1, and in that case modulus of x square minus 1 will behave as minus times of x square minus 1. And the equation will be simplified as 7x square plus x minus 5 is equal to 0. And its root by Sridharacharya formula will come out as minus 1 plus minus square root of 141 divided by 14. Now as we know that the approximate value of the quantity of the form square root of n square plus minus x is nothing but n plus minus x by 2n. So using the same formula, the square root of 141 can be simplified as 11.8 and the approximate values of x will come out as minus 12.8 by 4 and 10.8 by 4. Both of these values lies between close minus 1 to close 1 and hence both of these are the roots. Similarly, the case 2 will be when x belongs to R minus close minus 1 to close 1, and in that case the modulus of x square minus 1 will behave as x square minus 1 and the equation will be simplified as x square minus x minus 3 is equal to 0 and its root will be x is equal to 1 plus minus square root of 13 by 2. Using the approximate value, it will be minus 2.5 by 2 and 4.5 by 2. Since both of the values lying between open minus infinity to open 1 union open 1 to infinity, which is the subset of the domain in case 2, so it will have two solutions. in this subset. Thus the total number of real roots will be 4, 2 from case 1 and 2 from case 2. Question 18. Question says, in a triangle ABC, let AB is equal to square root of 23, BC is equal to 3 and CA is equal to 4. Then we need to find the value of cot A plus cot C divided by cot B. Now according to the given information, side A is equal to 3, side B is equal to 4 and side C is equal to square root of 23. Since all these three sides are given, so it is very easy to apply the cosine rule. So by cosine rule, cos of A is equal to B square plus C square minus A square divided by 2BC. And by substituting the values of A, B and C, it will come out as 15 divided by 3 times root 23. And from this, cot A can be found out as 15 divided by root 143. Similarly, we will find cos B, and cos B will come out as 8 by 4 times root 23, and from this cot B will come out as 8 divided by root 143. Similarly, cos C will be 1 by 12 and cot C will be 1 by root 143. And by substituting all these values in cot A plus cot C divided by cot B, the value will come out as 2. Question 19. Question says, let U, V and W be vectors in three-dimensional space where U and V are the unit vectors which are not perpendicular to each other, and U dot W is equal to 1, V dot W is equal to 1 and W dot W is equal to 4. If the volume of the parallelopipe whose adjacent sides are U, V and W is square root 2, then we need to find the value of modulus of 3 times vector U plus 5 times vector V. Now the given information is U dot U is equal to 1 because it is given that U is the unit vector. Similarly, V is a unit vector, so V dot V is equals to 1, and we are given that U dot W is equals to 1, V dot W is equal to 1 and W dot W is equal to 4. Further, we are also given that U and V are not perpendicular to each other. It means U dot V is not equal to 0. The another information is volume of parallelopipe, which is nothing but box product of vector U, vector V and vector W, and it is given as root 2. Now if we square this box product, then it will come out as 2, and in determinant form it can be represented as given. Now if we substitute all these information, then we will get the determinant of 1, U dot V 1, V dot U 1 1, 1 1 4 is equal to 2. And after simplifying, we will get the equation in terms of U dot V, and by solving we will get U dot V is equals to either 0 or either half. But U dot V cannot be equal to 0, so U dot V will be equal to half. Now we need to find the value of 3U plus 5V. So if we take the square of modulus of 3U plus 5V, then it will be the dot product of 3U plus 5V with 3U plus 5V. And after simplifying, it will come out as 9 times modulus of U square plus 25 times modulus of V square plus 30 times U dot V. Now we are given that U and V are the unit vectors, and we have already found the value of U dot V. So after substituting, we will get modulus of 3U plus 5V square as 49. So modulus of 3U plus 5V will be equal to 7. Thank you all. This ends the detailed analysis and solution of IIT JEE Advanced Paper 1 held in 2021. If you find this video interesting, please like, share and subscribe our channel for more updates.